want to talk today about something called the shadow of cancer and what that means for you and for me. I want to talk about what it's like for someone who's been diagnosed with cancer and what you can do to help lift that shadow from them. And I want to talk about what it's like for everyone else and what they can do to help someone. I'm sure there are tons of people in your lives that have had to deal with cancer, either directly or indirectly. And please bear with me, as most of you know, I can ramble on just a little bit, but I will try and keep this as short and sweet as I can. In 2000, I was diagnosed with melanoma, which is a very dangerous form of skin cancer. Lucky for me, my therapy was short. Physical aspects of the disease were dealt with very quickly, and life moved on. Except that it didn't. And I was really not even slightly aware of the impacts that it was going to have on me or also the people around me. And this is really what I want to get into today. So, what is the shadow of cancer? There are different variations of it out there, but for me, it was the realization between helping people who have cancer in their life understand what's going on with the people around them, and the people who have people with cancer in their life and understand what's going through their mind. And I noticed this disconnect. You really do get put on one side or the other, and many times, and nobody knows how to cross. And that's what I call this shadow. When you get cancer, it's unlike any other disease you've had. With day-to-day diseases, there's an outcome. There's hopefully a cure. There's a way to address it. Like getting a cold, you move on. You don't think about your next cold. You don't even worry about your cold coming back. But with cancer, it always sits there in the background, haunting you, really, on a daily basis. If there's one way that I can try and make it clear for the people who have not had to go through that, it's like a spider. People are afraid of spiders. And when you see the spider, you run away. Well, usually you scream, you jump, you run away. You get somebody else to go and take the spider away, or kill the spider. And then you're done, and you move on with your life. The problem with cancer is that you're the spider. So you can't run away from yourself. You can't get somebody to show up and address the issue for you. Every day you get up, and there's the spider waiting for you. And this does some pretty horrible things to you over a period of time. And there's only so many ways that you can address it. And it must be addressed because it does not go away. And in fact, it only gets worse. And really where that comes from is that cancer is a mental disease as well as a physical disease. I mean, the really nasty part about this disease is it actually spawns another disease, and that's a mental health disease. Depression, anxiety, PTSD, I mean, the list goes on and on. And, what drives most of this is that chronic fear. Now, fear is a good thing. It keeps us alive. When things are chasing us, when we're going to do something foolish and we get afraid, it's self-preservation. But it's designed, for short-term solutions. There's nothing natural about chronic fear. And in fact, it makes things a lot worse. When your body's in a state of chronic fear, all your fight-or-flight systems are fully engaged and eventually just hyperstimulated and burn out because it's just not what they were built for. Eventually, your body is just completely physically exhausted. Your sleep cycle's destroyed. And then becomes this vicious flip-flop between anxiety and depression, hyperstimulation, exhaustion, hyperstimulation, exhaustion, and so goes on the cycle. Another aspect is the vulnerability that comes from it, and that vulnerability shows up in all kinds of ways. The biggest issue when it comes to fear and vulnerability is that eventually what happens is you wind up switching off your emotional cues. And the problem with switching off emotions is that the way we're built, you can't just switch off one emotion or the other. Essentially, you switch them all off. So you just wind up not being able to feel anything because there's just nothing left to feel. Even if you want to love someone, even if you want to be around your friends, if you want to be happy, if you want to be sad, these emotions are just completely squashed down by the fear mechanism and the exhaustion that follows it. Vulnerability, spawns all kinds of things in us, and really, when you're dealing with disease, you're in a constant state of vulnerability. Now, this vicious cycle does have a way out, and that's what I want to talk about in terms of how you get rid of that vicious cycle, and how I found ways to get around that and through that, and it really goes back to in terms of the list of things that must be done when you get cancer, and it's kind of interesting in that. When it comes to treatment, especially in cancer, there are lots of disputes all over the world in terms of the best techniques, the philosophical aspects of that, the medical aspects of that, religious implications, moral implications of the treatments of cancer. And what's interesting, though, is that the mental aspects, the mental health, the mental counseling, the guidance when it comes to cancer, very rarely comes up. And in fact, in my case, it wasn't even suggested. And yet, mental health is common to all religions and all philosophies on life, and is the one thing that should never be thought of as an option. This is where it all comes from. Where there's a will, where there's a way. Needless to say, you have enough going on in your life. The last thing you need is to be losing your mental faculties while you're going along with it. And that brings a story that I had in terms of my experiences. And when I was diagnosed, as I said, I was assigned my specialist, I was assigned my surgeon, etc. And I come in, for my surgery, and I'm lying in my bed, and it's the first time I'm going to meet my surgeon. And it was a long day. There was all kinds of adventures going on that day before my surgery, and my surgeon comes in and sits down beside me and we talk, and immediately he's extremely positive. He talks about the positivity of my outcome, and that things are going to be fine, and it was a really interesting experience for me. Just the amount of compassion that this guy had, even though I'm sure he had 4 other surgeries piled up behind him. In that given day, and I already knew he'd been delayed, but he really just stopped what he was doing and took some serious time with me. And then later, after the surgery, and the day before I was supposed to come in to follow up with him, he gives me a call and he says, "Hey, listen, I just wanted to let you know, we got your results back, and it did not spread into your nervous system. And I just wanted to let you know, I just got it a couple minutes ago. I wanted to let you know right away. I know you were coming in tomorrow. But every day when you don't know is another day. You're just staring at the ceiling, sleepless at night. So I thought, you might want a better night's sleep tonight." And that just blew me away. It came in the next day, and we were going through the process. And he started talking to me. He's like, "Hey, listen, I got a melanoma as well. I'm also a cancer survivor," and it just clicked instantly. That his understanding and my understanding, when we had this, common element, and that natural compassion that he had came from an understanding of where I was at, and immediately we had a dialogue that I don't think I've ever been able to have with anybody else since, and it really came from that understanding between two people, and that's where I really realized how you can lift that shadow between two people, and as a person who's a cancer survivor, what I want to give to people, most people ask, again, what should I be doing? If I've been diagnosed, as a cancer survivor, what do you do? And the number one thing I can say is, do not let fear become the focus of your life. It's a vicious internal mechanism and cycle that you need to break. And there's only one way that I've ever been found that you can break it, and that's by verbalizing. It's amazing, you know, we build up all this tension, you know, before we have a heart-to-heart conversation. And then the moment, you know, we actually verbalize what's going on, we start bawling, we start laughing, we start crying, we release everything. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. You know, having that discussion does amazing things to break that cycle. And, you know, it doesn't matter who you're talking to. Go to anybody you trust. I highly recommend a counselor as well. Obviously, they're going to have a lot of skills and things that will help accelerate that process to you and get that dialogue if you're really rusty at talking. But the bottom line is, talk to anybody. You know, it's as simple as coming up to somebody you know and trust and just saying, hey, listen, I'm afraid. That's it. That's all you have to say. And it will just start moving. And they'll want to talk. And now you've crossed that bridge. And they can help you, because that's what people want to do in your life. They want to help you. It's just that we build up this shadow between us, so we really just don't know what to do about it. And the world certainly does not make it easy for us. When you want to talk about fear, I mean, how many times I woke up every morning, and for 15 years now, you know, you look at the news, you look at all the people who have lost the battle with cancer, and the news is not pretty. You know, I don't see positive outcomes on the news every day. You just hear about the next person, and it reminds you day after day after day, you know, how dangerous this disease is and how many lives it takes. But the irony of it is there are so many more survivors, and there are amazing happy stories out there. But media is focused on fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And if there are people in the media out there, believe me, there are a lot of people out there like me and everyone else that would love to see a happy story for a change, something that we can relate to and take with us. I mean, one story, one amazing, you know, leap forward in a cure, I mean, that gives us enough energy and drive to push on again and again and continue the battle, because it gives you that, you know, that little piece of hope, which is sometimes all you got left in the end. So yeah, if you're in the media out there, you know, show us the good stories, because we really want them, and you're going to do way more benefit than 10 sad stories, believe me, and people will listen. When it comes to somebody who, you know, is in your life and has cancer, and you're trying to figure out what to do, how to cross that bridge, the number one thing is don't let them build the gap. They think they're doing it for your protection, you know? I wouldn't talk to anybody because I don't want to make them feel bad. I don't want them to worry. I'm just going to wait until I have good news for them. Blah, 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 blah. Right? I mean, seriously. You know, people know. Everybody knows when you're full of it. And your best friends, the people that are closest to you, are all going to know that too. And it's silence that actually makes things a lot worse, not better. You know, so, you know, as the friend, you know, as the husband, the wife, the whomever, you know, get them talking and be persistent. Bug them. Check in all the time. They might get annoyed at you. You know, it might get awkward. Who cares? You know, there's way bigger pictures than you feeling a little awkward and them feeling a little awkward. And in most cases, it never happens. I mean, I've never seen it, personally. Anybody who's, you know, had the ability to come to me, and when I've had, you know, those rare moments, you know, earlier after my diagnosis where I was able to start that conversation, it just had a huge impact on me. Learn about the disease. Find them the mental help they may need that they're not looking for them. You know, engage them in that respect, and you know, be gentle but persistent, because a lot of times they've got so much else going on in their life that they have no idea where to begin, and it's just that little bit that will get them moving forward. As I said, a simple conversation. You know, look for those signs of depression. Look for those signs of anxiety. Look for those signs of withdrawal, and help them out. When you see that emotional detachment, that they don't seem to be very happy, but they don't seem to be very sad, they're just stuck in this emotional neutral gear, look for those things and be aware. And don't sit there afraid, do something about it. Really simply, just have a conversation with them. Or even very simply, go find them a story with a happy ending. Something they can read other than what they're being inundated by day-to-day basis of all the sad stories that are out there. And if they're alone, invite them over. Invite them over to live with you while they're going through treatment. After their treatment, you know, the worst possible place that you can be in your life when you are in this condition and you are going through this process is alone. Because for all the obvious reasons that we don't like being alone, but especially that vicious cycle of fear and anxiety and depression, that cycle, the only way it persists is through silence. And the only way you break it is through breaking that silence. And, you know, I want to do other videos like this going forward and talking about a lot of the different ways that I addressed that over the years. You know, there are lots of ways we can deal with anxiety and stress and depression. Some people choose drugs. I did not want to go down that route, so I found other avenues, and this is one of them. And the most important thing when it comes to this is do not put fear in the driver's seat of your life. And remember, from the day you are diagnosed, you are a cancer survivor, not a victim. Thanks, and please share this with anybody you want. And if you're alone, get in touch with me, and I'd be happy to help anybody who needs the help. Thanks.